Oh, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, Jar of Marble dwellers and Jar of Marble curious. My name is Linda and I'm Bob. And this is Jar of Marbles. Hi, how you doing, Bob? I'm good. You? I'm good. Thank you, Bob. I'm so glad that you could all join us today. And today we're going to talk a little bit about the older you get. There are so many changes, phases, periods, labels, chapters, episodes, junctures in our lives. There are many perspectives, standpoints, beliefs, stances, slants, angles, aspects, frames of minds, corrections, change of minds, stages. Yes, Bob, that's quite right. I used to have tons of friends. I confided important things in a couple of people that I considered my friends. I felt like they knew my soul through and through. In my mind, we were going to be friends forever, for all time. I had no reason to think otherwise. We all confided in one another and did so for years. Some were in my wedding party and they've long gone from my life. But as time went on, as it does, these friendships fizzled out. And I'm not saying I didn't play a role. I played a critical role in some of the deterioration too. We grow apart. We get busy with our kids' careers, etc. And that's the thing about some people. They might walk in and out of your life. I've come to the conclusion, while it might not necessarily be harder to make friends when you're older, the question is, do you really want to? I certainly do not want lots of friends, one or two if you're really lucky is plenty. For it to be genuine and maintained kindly, there cannot be loads of personalities in the mix. You realise that you're done with drama. In fact, have a real aversion to drama, other people's shit. Oh, you said shit. I did, Bob, that's right. There is zero time for nonsense. When you're young, you may have wanted to be friends with everyone. As you get older, you're not available or dealing with anything that really isn't worth your energy or your time. That's right, Bob. For me, if someone wants to be shady, they have no place in my life. If someone is going to put the effort in to make the friendship sustainable, it can feel very disappointing, but there is zero time I'm prepared to give for zero effort, and I'm not putting up with any nonsense. Well, why would you? Well, that's right, Bob. Time alone is well spent, and I do believe the older you get, having your own time is delicious. Like chocolate? Like chocolate, Bob. Making new friends isn't even a priority. Hey, but don't get me wrong, I love a good yarn and I'm still a friendly person. If I was to make a new friend, that would be fantastic. I still hang out with people, but I don't really let them in. What I mean by that is I don't need to be sort of let in all the way with others and because lines can get crossed when every little thing is confessed and told. So now I don't tell secrets. People think that they know me really well, and they do, but I just don't tell everything. I don't become vulnerable basically to strangers or to people that I don't trust. I have a lovely family and I have a couple of friends that are like family, and that is plenty good for me, like many of us. That is enough. And in between all of that, I have my own interests. And as I said, I love spending time alone. When you're younger, you expect people to have your best interests at heart. You trust with your whole heart. And as you grow up, you learn that people can disappoint and hurt you. It can be astonishing to see such good friends walk away. I've seen it in so many others, and I've seen it in my story too. But ultimately, some of us toughen up because we have to. It's the old getting older thing, learning our lessons rather than having a life being a much older person and feeling victimised and being sad. No one gets that power, I'm afraid. We've learnt lots in our generation. That's right. Thank you. The older you get, the less you choose to put anyone before you. You start doing things to please yourself rather than other people. That can be a hard learned lesson, but once learned, it's a little bit fabulous. The older you get, the less you look for a ride or die friend. Instead, you start improving yourself. Friends will come and go, but you will never leave you. Oh, I like that. Yeah, me too, Bob. Absolutely fabulous. We now know brain function need not decline with age. Well, at least for people who stay healthy and mentally active. By the way, research shows that a lifetime of vigorous learning helps prevent or delay Alzheimer's disease. A lifetime of intellectual stimulus, of research sent to protect the brain against aging. Sometimes I can get right carried away when I'm researching, and then I end up on so many different subjects and paths. Is that annoying? Not at all. I find the more I learn about a subject I'm interested in, I then have more questions about subjects connected. So it's quite fascinating. Like, here's some examples. Just when I was out researching the other day and different things I was reading and looking up, I fell upon these examples. Leo Tolstoy learned to ride a bike at 67 years old. I mean, I think that's so cool because unless you're in your 50s or your 60s, you probably really wouldn't appreciate that. Queen Victoria began learning Hindustani at 68. Giuseppe Verdi was still composing operas in his 80s. Frank Lloyd Wright designed his last building at 89. In their 90s, Robert Frost was writing poems and George Bernard Shaw was writing plays. Georgia O'Keeffe was painting pictures and Pablo Casals was playing cello. Oliver Wendell Holmes was still dominating the Supreme Court until he retired at 91. Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Supreme Justice, she was 87 when she died, but the work that she did in her life right up to the end, amazing. Linus Pauling, a scientist and peace activist amongst many other things, was actively publishing just before his death at 93. And this other that was so interesting was Leopold Stokowski, a British-born American conductor, recorded 20 albums in his 90s and signed a 6-year contract at 96. I mean, oh my God. I know. So good. So very impressive. Scientists are particularly noted for being sharp and productive long into their late 80s and 90s. Marion Diamond, an active senior scientist at 75, published data showing that brain cells can grow and learning can improve throughout life. Oh, I like that. Me likey. Yes, I do. Absolutely, Bob. I know I have to push myself to learn new things because, in essence, I know I actually no longer have to. So it really is up to me, but I find I love it, and it really is how it has made me feel holistically whole from learning things I know nothing about. I'm thinking I'm going to have to buy a very large hat. What for, Bob? To house my very large brain. Oh, Bob, I tell you what, you're great. A freedom to choose sets in. Hashtag the older you get. People I have spoken to said they simply eliminated doing things they didn't see value in, saying life was too short to waste on something you don't enjoy. They went on to say that they wish that they had given themselves the license to do this so many years before. One-sided relationships, get the boot. Others said that they no longer had the patience for time-consuming outings that involved large crowds or long lines. I'm already there. One lady said, I used to be extremely polite to salesmen calling me. Oh, I think we all were. But she went on to say, so knocking on my door, I'm old now with zero interest, and if I say no thank you and they keep talking or put on the pressure, I shut the door in their faces. I don't even answer the phone anymore, she said. That is understandable, for today we can get odd calls from all over the world and ding-dongs on the other end. It is common practice for most of us, if we don't know the number, if it's that important, they'll leave a message, and then and only then will I tend to it. And 99% of the time it's a scam or another language and a full-blown conversation on the other end. Goodbye. That's right. Finishing a book I don't like, someone said, because there are so many more books to read to spend time on rather than ones that are not interesting to me. And I thought it was so interesting because she went on to say, well, back in the day when we were younger, we were displaying fortitude. And once we get older, we have zero interest in persevering with, say, in this instance, a book that we don't like or visiting someone who gets right up your nose. No can do. I'm so old that I remember when emojis were called hieroglyphics. Well, I'm so old, Bob. I remember when the Dead Sea was just sick. That's a good one, an old one, but a good one. Oh, yes, here I am. Sorry. Another common comment made was attending things that I don't want to go to and keeping my mouth shut to keep the peace while everyone else speaks their mind and expects me to be okay with it. I no longer go if that's not something I want to do. I mean, I find it interesting now talking to the older generation who are expressing this, and depending on who it is and where they live, it might just be easier to create a story as to why they can't attend. It's not always that easy to get out of something you absolutely do not want to attend. So what, you just tell a fib? Yep, Bob. may not want to hurt someone's feelings, and obviously not a good friend, but some invitations are just not my bag, and that is that.
Do you consider yourself old?
I'm not old. I'm just retro. Hashtag the older I get. Now, because laughing is good for the soul, jokes about getting older can be a fun and healthy way to approach the aging process. In fact, science shows that laughing is good for your health and well-being. I'm not old, I'm just chronologically gifted.
Hey, what's the secret to having a smoking hot body as a senior?
Oh, tell me.
Cremation.
I recall when I was a lot younger, I had the sense that I would outrun old age. I'm not sure that it was as a much conscious sort of thought, but more happy with being young, knowing I was young and a good chance that I had a lot of years ahead of me. I recall feeling I had a lot of time. It was always about having loads of time and relaxing into that knowledge. Obviously, I wasn't too cynical, but anywho, now that I am older, I can only hope that I have lots of time. The sayings that you've heard over the years, you realise that they kind of now apply to you. There are some timeless quotes. You can't help getting older, but you don't have to get old. Love that saying by George Burns, American comedian, actor and musician. And as Tom Petty said, if you're not getting older, you're dead.
Yes, Tom, I'm with you.
That's right, me too, Bob. I think women should start to embrace their age. What's the alternative to getting older? You die. I can't change the day I was born, but I can take care of my skin, my body, my mind, and try to live my life and be happy. That was a quote from an actress, Olivia Munn. More than anything you learn with every passing year is the vast importance of choosing happiness over nearly everything else. Actively choosing happiness, and however you find it, it can be found in so many places, in so many ways. The older I get, I find I am wary of comparison, so I am intentional. I have to be with the choices I make. Lately, I have been thinking about the subject of releasing unhealthy attachments. There are always so many of them, and I believe that there was something wrong with me. But having healthy friends, you can see that perhaps the company you were keeping maybe was not a good choice at all. A friend told me that she chose for a week whether she would do only how she felt, that she would try listening only to her inner voice, that quiet voice she tended to not acknowledge because of her strict to-do lists. She said she felt so free. She also said that as she got older, she felt that she owed herself that, in fact, felt it was long overdue. I think that just sounds wonderful. Oh, yes. Go you, girl. Yes. There are so many great examples of how we can embrace ourselves at any stage of our lives, but in this instance, as we get older, there is a knowing, a definite intention that is made where we choose to acknowledge where we choose to acknowledge our inherent worthiness and consciously release any negative self-talk or the need for external validation. Nothing should be holding us back, least of all ourselves. It is a beautiful self-practice that all queenagers can engage in, and as we get older, it makes total sense. No question about it.
Such important choices, and the beauty of it all is we have the choice.
That we do, Bob.
Yep. Valid self-care.
Good on you, Bob. And with self-honouring, this feeds the health of our relationships in the process.
Win-win.
I have said this to myself and others many times, particularly in the last 5 years. We are coming home to ourselves. Staying on our own path and staying true to ourselves, that seems far more reasonable the older I get. It isn't a distant dream to create space from negative energy. As if it isn't enough to have the dictates of society, many of us think little of that. We saw through it all years ago.
Oh, yeah.
You know what? I'm just getting a little bit of an applause there. Absolutely. We are creating our stories. We are writing our own scripts, what we will tolerate and what we believe, finding a softer truth that is both private and able to be orchestrated out into the world. As we come home, we can help others too. Our belief systems needs to be scrutinised if we have never really looked at them. Are they serving us? How are they impacting us? These beliefs may have made sense once upon a time. A gentle reminder. Hashtag the older I get. I have come to know that it is important to quiet down the noise and focus on what truly matters. The older I get, I know what my values are. I believe that we are here for a deep sense of joy and fulfillment. The old markers of success have changed so much, and it is clearer to see it. How what was once so important is absolutely not. Meeting ourselves with kindness asks us to check the words that we speak to ourselves.
Well, gee, that's a biggie.
It is. I've spoken about this before, about monitoring yourself to see if there's anything you're thinking that needs to be looked at or squashed. It is beyond a blowout what is going on in our heads if we aren't taking charge. Embracing our imperfections with tenderness. My eyes are not harsh as I see myself. Sometimes I catch my reflection and it's not like, oh, who's that? It's more like, well, there you go. You're aging, Linda girl, you beautiful girl, and you're doing well. You're doing good. Good for you, babe.
Do you really?
I absolutely do, Bob. Who else is going to say that?
Oh, okay, me.
Well, great, Bob. But this is me offering my self-validation. That's it. All for that. Much like checking in with ourselves. How are we? How are we really? Taking that moment longer with the things or that we're doing, or say a grandchild in my case that I love, that extra conscious moment. Oh, heaven on a stick. Nourishing our inner child with love, offering ourselves forgiveness. That's a beautiful prayer. And tapping into the things that bring ease to our nervous system and repeating.
Repeating.
Absolutely bang on, Bob. And from those I've spoken to about the subject, as broad as it is, all of this is a much needed process, and it can feel kind of lonely, and the feeling of misunderstanding from others can be hard. Perhaps it is just the feeling of not being understood. But challenging our self-talk is such an act of self-love. And as I grow older, I know the value of me being on my side so I can grow gently and quietly. There is untold value in keeping special parts to yourself and your growth to yourself. It is an inner journey, a path to change, yet that change is really discovering who you are underneath it all, releasing feelings of inadequacy, guilt or shame. The discomfort is worth it. It's the purification of your heart. It's worth going through. It is sustainable growth, gentle, slow, no rushing, and what you learn, it actually sticks. I love that growth is the goal. Growth can look like so many things to all of us. Perhaps it's knowing that you're not responsible for others' bad moods, for their silent treatment, their negative reactions to your boundaries, for their victim or martyr mentality. Our behaviours are an indication of our own work, just as others' behaviours are an indication of their work. Of course, that doesn't mean we don't feel hurt by others, but it can be an indicator of our wounds and the work we may need to look at for our own healing. Acknowledging the hurt to yourself is a great place to start. It is true that we all have opportunity to choose how we respond to the things in our environment, including our relationships and encounters with others.
That choice is everything.
It is, Bob. Our impulses can lead us rushing into act. Our self-worth is on the line when we go too far, taking responsibility for things that are simply not ours. We may even think we're being helpful, overlooking bad behaviours. We may be maintaining our own bad behaviours, that is to say, just stepping over the line and doing too much for others, say, who are more than capable. We can rob others of the opportunity to grow. Maybe we're scared that we won't be of use or be relevant anymore. Maybe we don't want to run our own life. Maybe we just want to play martyr and dislike our lot, dislike our lives.
Truth.
Hashtag the older I get. One thing is for sure, we are all different with very different experiences and very different knowledge based on our own lives. We are only responsible for our own emotions and behaviour. We cannot change others. That powerful self-awareness will hold you in good stead, freeing up space for newness. Oh yeah, that's right. Yes. Recently, I read a comment that said that she loved what I was doing and sometimes she felt bad that she wasn't doing so well in her life and that I seemed to have it all together and that made her feel really sad.
Oh, that's sad.
Yes, that hurt my heart too, but I get it. It's a very human reaction if you're in struggle city to feel bad when someone seems to be going along well. Especially on social media, things we watch can alter how we feel about certain things, and we may be accidentally taking on board and deciding that we're not maybe doing so well as we compare ourselves. We can diminish our own value. Life for none of us is straightforward, and we are all doing the best we can. My life journey has been a challenging one, I can say, every step of the way, and the good that you hear is me overcoming many of those challenges. I made a decision to get to know myself for myself and not in relation to another's opinion of me. Please know yourself. Know thyself is a philosophical maxim which was inscribed upon the temple of Apollo in the ancient Greek precinct of Delphi. This saying has been used by numerous authors over the years, so please honour yourself and honour your journey. Absolutely. No one on this planet can do you, know you like you on this earth, and no one can do it better.
Oh, beautiful.
And the truth be told, getting older, being older, speaking for myself and for others have shared with me, there is so much I no longer relate to, as in my younger self, even who I was 5 years ago. A lot of underground development is always going on. Being older is a wonderful liberation. It feels like it holds a key that I hadn't expected to hold, let alone yield. I know who I am. It sounds obvious, doesn't it? But if you know, you know. And that brings us to the end of another episode.
Oh, I loved it, like a cat chasing laser pointers.
Great, Bob. Me too. So, Marble Dwellers, the older I get, the more I realise that getting my steps in no longer refers to a vigorous workout, but rather trying to remember where I left my car keys. It's a fitness routine for the mind, and let me tell you, my brain is doing more laps than my younger self ever did round the local park. So thank you as always for joining me. The millions of places you could have been and you came here. What an honour. So thank you. Thank you so much. So say good day to the family and give the mosquito a flick, and we'll see you next time, okay? Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.